The Final Destination series has had its ups and downs over the years, and we haven't gotten a new one in a while, but this year we finally did. Does this new installment breathe new life into the franchise, or is it one you should skip? Let's get started on my review of Final Destination Bloodlines. Let's go.
From the town I like nothing when I'm hopefuls live. A small city or something, but mostly no one forgets. On the outskirts of where I've been dreaming since a kid. Thought I was cursed to never see a radio hit, a Grammy the industry or something even close. Miles outside.
What's going on, all my beautiful people? This is JC, and I just got back from watching Final Destination Bloodlines. Before I do start my review, please note this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you haven't seen it yet, currently showing in theaters. Also, please make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more horror films that I'm reviewing just like this. So Final Destination Bloodlines stars Brec Bassinger, Richard Harmon, the legendary Tony Todd, Caitlin Sanawana, and more. Plagued by a violent and recurring nightmare, a college student heads home to track down the one person who might be able to break the cycle of death and save her family from the grisly demise that inevitably awaits them all. Alright, so I'm a fan of the Final Destination franchise. I've been for years, and I remember exactly where I was, not only when I saw the first Final Destination film, which I was so young, but also when I saw the second one, and so on and so forth. With the second one, though, I mean, that's not only one of my favorites, but that has literally traumatized me for years, to the point where I'm never behind any of those trucks that have those huge logs in them, and I'm always cautious when I'm in traffic around some of those trucks that even look remotely close to it. But over the years, I've not only found some enjoyment with its over-the-top kills and crazy ridiculousness sometimes that these films show, but I've also loved how the films have gotten very creative over the years. Now, I will say though, I'm one of the ones that didn't really care for the last one we did get, and I felt like it could have been better in certain aspects. But with that being said, much like the Saw franchise, I watch these films to be entertained and just to have fun with it. And yes, I'm one of those sickos that's watching a horror movie with all this gore and blood and guts as I'm sitting there just chowing down on my popcorn. Hey, don't judge me, alright? But I know that it's been quite a few years since we have gotten a new Final Destination film. So when it was announced, I was pretty psyched about it. And then I heard about the concept and I heard about the synopsis, and I was even more intrigued. I thought, all right, cool. They're bringing back this franchise, making a sequel, not really rebooting anything, which I'm so glad they did not do, and also bringing kind of a twist to it. So let me explain that twist without giving any spoilers away for anybody who's watching this who's not really that familiar with the franchise. Instead of sticking to the usual slasher formula with a mass killer or haunted house, Final Destination has always had this enemy within its films, aka death itself. But the thing that makes this one very unique is the story kicks off in the 1960s with Iris Campbell, aka Brec Bassinger. She's a young woman who sees a horrifying vision moments before a major disaster. Of course, like a lot of these films, it does have a layout, it does have a formula, I get it. But thanks to her warning, many lives are saved, just like the previous films, but this time she stops it for all of those people, and death comes back years later to haunt her kids as kids. And that's when you get this plot of fast forward to the present with the granddaughter, aka Stephanie, played by Caitlin Sanawana. And I feel like she did a pretty good job in this film. More on her acting later on, but I love how it felt like with this film, there was a grander scale on death and all of these accidents. I loved how it really toyed with the lineage and really breaking down family trees and all those things when it came to death. When you learn about it, you start to see how serious it is, not just for some of the family members around her, but it's other people involved. In most of the previous films, we've always seen just the friends surrounding that person who has seen the premonition. I love how this film, though, has heavier stakes on who death is coming after. And not only affects their bloodlines, but let's just say there's more at stake. Although I do wish they would have focused more on some other people that were involved. I'm not going to say too much. This film does still set itself apart from the others in the series. And the thing about that too is when you are watching this movie, I didn't feel like there was too many characters that played a-holes. They were, for the most part, likable because they were family members. Starting to see some of these characters, I thought, oh, okay, I don't want to see any of them die. And I love how I'm starting to see this trend in horror nowadays, or at least it seems like this year. Even when I went to go see Clown in the Cornfield last week, I started to like those characters a little more than usual. I like how more horror films and directors and writers are starting to get used to that. They're trying to write these parts just a little bit better when it comes to slashers or horror films just like this. And I'm not gonna lie, when I did see the trailer, one of the guys in there, I thought, okay, he's the a-hole. Maybe the brother or some other people I'm seeing in this trailer are not going to be, and you're gonna feel for them. I was definitely expecting some of these tropes with these characters, but you don't get that in here. Really what you get is Stephanie's brainy younger brother Charlie to her wild cousin Eric and lovable goofball Bobby. Each character feels real. You find yourself hoping they somehow beat the odds, even though deep down you know what kind of movie this is. And that's not a spoiler because I'm still not telling you who kicks the can and who doesn't. Now let's get into the kills with this movie, because yes, if you are going to see this movie just like I am for the kills and the creativity, I mean, you're watching the right movie. And let's be honest, these movies are all about crazy over-the-top deaths, and Bloodlines does not hold back, which I loved. From lawnmowers to different types of devices to one of my favorite scenes involving the characters being in a hospital, and I'm not going to say anything else, but wait for that scene, and when you get it, wow, love that part. The movie sets up each death like a deadly chain reaction, and trying to guess what will happen next is half the fun. Like I said, because there's more at stake here, there's more bloodlines. I know I said it, but there's more of the family tree involved. There's things that happen, and there's also some exposition about who in the family is going to go next. And I kind of liked having that aspect in this movie, because for a split second, I thought this was a whodunit or who's gonna die next type of film, and I loved seeing some of that mystery take place. A lot of these kills are sometimes gross and kept my audience on the edge of their seats, kind of squirming in them, and I heard a lot of reactions going on because I did see this with a full packed theater, and that added to the experience. But the unpredictability in this film when it came to the kills was pretty top notch, to say the least. One of the things though that I did not like, there is more usage of CGI in here. I wish it kind of would have stuck to some of the past films with being a little more practical, but nonetheless, I was still very entertained with most of these kills. Now, while Bloodlines definitely brings the scares, it also leans harder into the humor than past Final Destination films, which I was totally thrown off by. A lot of times with the past Final Destination films, it's been very serious, and you start to feel that anxiety, feel that dread that these characters are going through. But the way these kills and the way these accidents happen are so ridiculous. I've always thought one of the things about these films that I've never been crazy about is how serious it takes itself. Sometimes it's like, okay, that's so ridiculous. Come on now. I loved how with this one, the directors decided, no, we're gonna play into the humor. We know how ridiculous this is, so let's kind of lean into it. And overall, it feels like the directors had fun balancing the shocking deaths with moments that make you laugh out loud. I really like that, because there are some dark jokes in here, and if anyone knows me, I'm one for dark humor, trust me. The best part about it though is that the comedy never takes away from the fear. If anything, it makes the intense parts hit even harder, which I did appreciate. Another thing I do gotta talk about is that longtime fans will appreciate the emotional return of Tony Todd as Bludworth. His final scene for sure was impactful, and he even says something in his scene that gave me goosebumps, because it was very ironic, not only what he said, but the fact that we've had to say goodbye to a horror icon who has blessed us with a lot of his presence in these films. It gives this film surprising heart among all the chaos. Loved seeing him, and I'm not gonna lie, I also wanted to tear up for sure. So here are my final thoughts, you guys. Final Destination Bloodlines may have taken 14 years to arrive, but it shows up loud and ready to entertain. The kills are clever, the characters are easy to root for, and the mix of comedy and horror hits just right. It's a great entry for new fans and a treat for longtime followers, especially with the nods to past movies and Tony Todd's unforgettable send-off. With all that being said, I'm gonna give Final Destination Bloodlines 4 flames out of 5 and a fire film rating.
It's good.
This is a fun, wild ride filled with thrills, laughs, and jaw-dropping moments. It's for sure solid and entertaining. I highly recommend, and I had a blast with this one. So alright guys, have you seen this film yet this weekend, or are you looking forward to seeing it? Which Final Destination movie is your favorite in the franchise? Part 3 is definitely up there for me, but I have a special place for part 2 in my heart for sure. But let me know in the comments below. And last thing before I do go, you guys, is please make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name's JC, and until next time, I'm out.